Uh, so last lab, 19, only 20 people. Do we have a lot of dropouts today? What's the total number supposed to be, Arun?
Sir, it was supposed to be 31 people registered, but due to the timing and COVID duties and all, many dropped off, sir.
Okay.
Around 16, 17 people used to attend daily, sir.
Right. Okay. Okay. So the 20 people who are actually here, uh, the, the what we are going to talk about is for you taking responsibility for doing something that you have not been doing all your life. Normally, you see your doctor duty as doctoring, seeing patients, writing prescription. You haven't seen it as your duty to go and make sure that some medicine is available in stock. You have never taken it as your duty to find out how much every medicine costs, etc. But I am requesting you, as your patient tomorrow, I am making this request. All your palliative care education is of no use. You suffer coming to you in agonizing pain and you say, no, we don't have morphine. It will not come automatically. We are at a stage in this country where opioid access is very limited. Less than 4%. Less than 4% doesn't mean much. It could well be less than 2%. Very few have access to palliative to morphine. And if you cannot relieve the pain, how are you going to relieve the psychosocial suffering or other symptoms? So the only way of solving the problem is on top of your white doctor's coat, put on one more jacket, the advocacy jacket. My request to the 20 of you is in my interest as your patient for tomorrow, in the interest of a million people in cancer pain, who are in severe cancer pain in this country. You have to be activists. Very often I hear when I visit an institution or something, they say, no, we had morphine, but since last week it is not available. Sunil will very proudly sit up and tell you that in many, many years, he has never had the situation where he had to say, we don't have morphine. Because all of us make it our duty to understand the system, ask for it, make sure that the stock is never interrupted. Make sure that the drugs controller's office, if they do not send a document in time, it is followed up. So, ladies and gentlemen, my plea to you, don't be just doctors, be advocates also. Understand the system, understand how it's getting to the pharmacy, to your clinic. So this is our subject for today. For today, please do the screen sharing.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Next, please, Arun. I'm sorry about the yellow lettering. Arun, after this session, will you please change it from yellow to something legible like blue?
Oh, okay, sir.
Look at the WHO ladder. Do you know when it was introduced? 1986. And see from that year how it started slowly going up. And after the first 7 or 8 years, the growth was quicker. This is still the turn of the century. Doesn't reflect the opioid epidemic of the USA. But with the ladder and the advocacy that followed, thanks to Dr. Jan Sternstwart, the then chief of cancer at WHO, who took the initiative. This happened globally. Unfortunately, dear friends, something that happened in our country was just the opposite in the same period of time. Arun, this is the same period of time. The morphine consumption suddenly plummeted down. The reason was that at around the same time, when WHO introduced the ladder, India created a new law. The law was called Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act of India, NDPS Act of India. NDPS Act was very complicated. It was aimed at preventing abuse. It was not aimed at making the medicine available. It brought in very stiff penalties. People were afraid. Pharmacies stopped stocking it. Hospitals stopped using it. All of a sudden, you see the fall in the bar chart, and that fall corresponds to increase in pain. See, even before, it was only some 600 kilograms. In India, if everybody has to get pain relief, we will need about 36,000 kilograms of morphine. It was only 600, and from that it dropped to as low as 17. Okay, I don't. The complicated law created the different rules for different states. The states could create their own rules. Already it was complicated, states made it more complicated. Next, please, Arun. Everyone here, please let us accept the principle of balance, that we have a duty to prevent non-medical use of opioids. I don't want my grandchildren to become addicts. I don't want Arun to become an addict. We have a responsibility to make sure that we use the opioids responsibly. That all too we take up. We'll try to make uninterrupted supply of morphine, but we will make sure that the system is done properly. It doesn't get out into the streets. But at the same time, this balance is necessary. Along with making it available for medical use, we will have to prevent abuse also. Any comments there? Arun, next one. A question that I might have expected is, if we make opioids available widely, will it not cause addiction? Important learning point, everybody. Please listen. You have to understand the difference between addiction and physical dependence. If you or I have a pain condition and we take morphine for maybe a few months, you would get physically dependent. Once you are physically dependent, then if you withdraw it, you will get withdrawal symptoms. Low energy, sleepiness, disoriented. Interestingly, some of the manifestations are exactly like that of morphine toxicity. Sleepiness, disorientation, delirium, myoclonus. But also, unlike in opioid toxicity, withdrawal symptoms include abdominal cramps and diarrhea. Now, this is not addiction. If there are withdrawal symptoms, that only shows physical dependence, which can be managed by slow withdrawal of opioids. Shall I tell a story? Arun, please stop the share for a minute. Let me see people and talk. We'll have to come back to the slides. I had this man with a fibrosarcoma here over the scapula. He had a slow growing tumor. He got it operated, and then they recommended, actually scapula was taken away. So he had some disability. They recommended radiation to follow. He was afraid of radiation and he didn't undergo the radiation. So he was okay except for pain there. We treated him with morphine. We gave him morphine for 2 years. He was on morphine. And then it ulcerated. It started seeping. And the oncologist said, you have to undergo radiation. Radiation will make it heal. So he had a palliative radiation. This started healing. It stopped seeping, started healing. We said, your pain may come down. Now we will, when your pain is a bit less, we'll gradually withdraw it. We'll withdraw it over a 2 months period. He came back the next week, gave us the pack of morphine and said, I have stopped it. I'm okay. So some people may not have so much of withdrawal symptoms. And this man, after 2 years, had no problems at all stopping it. But I have seen the other kind of story also. There was a man who had a pancreatic growth. He was diagnosed as cancer. Sunil also knows him. We used to see him together. He refused to die. If there is a pancreas, you expect people to die unless they have surgery. This man was okay. And then obviously it became clear that the old biopsy report was wrong. He did not have a cancer. He had a chronic calcific pancreatitis. But he had a very tough time. He was so dependent on morphine that even when he was not in pain, he could not go off morphine. So physical dependence is real. We can have the slides back again. Physical dependence is real. It will cause symptoms like opioid toxicity, also abdominal cramps and diarrhea. But addiction is a psychological factor where your mind itself is affected. You have craving for the substance, not for the pain relief. Even if your pain is relieved, you still want more. And somebody who is addicted will never be happy with the same dose. Their requirement will go on increasing. You ask them to take 20 milligrams every 4 hours, they'll come after 4 days and say their medicine is finished. And they will have behavioral changes, not so rational thinking anymore, behaving in any odd way to get hold of the medicine. Now this, with oral morphine, still possible, but rare. It is not a problem with cancer, but if you are using it for a non-cancer pain for very many years, addiction is a possibility. Some authorities say the possibility of addiction with long-term morphine is only 4%. Some others say it is 20%. There is disagreement. But before I move on, I want to make sure that everybody is happy so far. This is understood. I will wait for a few seconds to see if anybody has any question. Arun, please move the slide. And in Calicut, where I was working, over a 2-year period, we studied every single patient. We followed up. 1723 patients were seen in those 2 years. 1723 patients received morphine, others were not included. We kept the documents properly. If there was any discrepancy in the stock, even 4 tablets missing, we investigated it. We showed and this was published in the Lancet, that we could use it without misuse or diversion if we follow minimal required steps in documentation. Next, please. So we have been working on improving access to opioids since 1995. Most people here are very young, and please remember, major changes, especially major changes involving behavior of physicians, may take a long time. Don't give up. You will go and ask for morphine, and your medical super may immediately say, rubbish. We don't want oral morphine. We don't want addiction. Don't fight. Step back. Find another opportunity to bring the matter up to him. We did a lot of advocacy in newspapers and elsewhere. We spread the stories. We actually went to the Supreme Court, filed a litigation, which was a great strength. We got a lot of international support from organizations. WHO Collaborating Center in USA was very helpful. That study that we published in the Lancet was very effective. We talked about the principle of balance and advocated as it's our duty. And we went on trying for change in the law. Next, please. In February 2014, after 19 years of our efforts, next, the law was changed. The Indian Parliament changed the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, making it easier to access opioids. It is 7 years old. Next, please. So the change mainly involves one, accepting that the purpose of the law is not only to prevent abuse, to ensure medical and scientific use. This is officially accepted as an objective of the amended Act. Next, please. The new law of 2014 brought in the term essential narcotic drugs, ENDs. We were not very happy with the term. Narcotic is not a scientific word. Opioid is a scientific word. Narcotics are a non-specific thing, but that's the way the government called it. Essential narcotic drugs, anything that the central government notifies as an END, hereafter will be an END. At the moment, morphine, fentanyl, and methadone are included among ENDs. Any questions? Essential narcotic drugs. Please try to remember that term.
What about
Morphine,
buprenorphine, sir?
no, not included. Even pethidine is not included. Generally, only medicines that are commonly used, I mean, at that time, are included. Divya, buprenorphine doesn't come under the same class, Schedule X. Buprenorphine is not under the same control. You still need to document it, and pharmacies have special requirement, but not the same licensing procedure. It is not required. It's not a step 3 opioid.
Yes.
Any other question? Anybody else?
Sir, so tramadol and tapentadol.
Namrata, what class of medicine is in the ladder? Which step does tramadol come under?
Weak opioids.
Step 2. Step 2 opiates are not under the same class. They are not under the same control. You don't need a license. You don't need the same RMI status. All that is necessary, either your institution or the pharmacy will have to register under a separate section called Section 8. That's all. Very easy. The complication is not there. Any hospital can get tramadol. Any pharmacy can stock tramadol. But a pharmacist can sell it to you only if you are, technically at least, if you give a prescription in your letterhead with a stamp, and they will have to keep the prescription. That's the only restriction. It is not under the same class. Do you understand what I mean by the same class? It is not under such strict control. Buprenorphine, tramadol, medicines like that, step 2 or between step 2 and 3 are not included in the same strict regulation. Any other question?
So recently, ketamine, they were asking to maintain a register.
Yes, but
And
you know,
operating
again,
asking.
ketamine is not one of these medicines. This kind of licensing process is not necessary. But yes, hospitals was included, it was scheduled. It brought into Schedule X, so that for that also special permission is necessary, and you will have to keep a separate stock.
Okay.
Next. Any other question? Arun, please move. Earlier, every state could have its own rules. I want you to remember this difference between an act and a rule. An act, ACT, act is a law created by the parliament or assembly. Rule is something that is brought up by an executive order. You have a Disabilities Act by the parliament. State government creates the rules to follow how the act is to be followed. They cannot change the act. So with the amendment of 2014, the states could no longer create any law. The rules could be, the rules could be created only by the government of India now. For fentanyl, morphine or methadone, or any other medicine that may in future be classed as an END, state government cannot make its own rules. The whole country will have to follow the same rules created by government of India. Next. Now, before 2014, you see the first panel, every state had its own rule. For licensing, you had to go to multiple agencies. We had to get it ratified by drug controller, excise officials in 2 places. In some states, they had to get it by DHS or DME. And we needed a possession license. We needed a import permit, an export permit, and a transport permit. So the common problem was you get one license, then you apply for the other, and before the second one comes, the first has expired validity. All this is done away with. Now every state has the same rules, and the state drug controller is the only officer in the process. The excise or any other agency is not involved. You need to know this. Ladies and gentlemen, your own pharmacist, your own medical superintendent, your own RMO may not know this. Even your drug controller may not know this. We need to have enough information about it. You will forget many of these. Please don't hesitate to bother us again. Please ask Sunil, please ask me. When you have problems, we are here to help. What we want is that your patients should get pain relief. Of course, as I said this, Parul's picture came on the screen. Parul, you are in UAE and none of these rules apply to UAE, of course. All these rules are applicable to India. But is there a lesson for other countries? I know we have people from Philippines. In every country, the basic acceptance has to come from us, that we have to understand the law and the rules. Because if we don't, somebody will say, no, no, that is not possible. And we won't be able to advise them. So according to the new law, the state drug controller approves recognized medical institutions. That is, what Divya has to do it. If Divya wants it in the Armed Forces Hospital or Air Force Hospital, I forget, Command Hospital.
Yes,
Command Hospital is,
yes, sir.
you need two things. One, you need one doctor with training in palliative care, which is you. You need an application in a form which we will give you. It's on our website also, but we'll always give you. We'll send it across to you. Arun, please remember this. We always send these forms to them. One form is to be signed by the head of the institution. It's a simple form, not complicated. The other is to be signed by you, the trained doctor. You will need to attach your degree certificate as well as your certificate of registration and medical and palliative care training. And then the drug controller sends you approving your institution as a recognized medical institution. Once you have that, you don't need any license. You just order for the medicine.
Yes.
Anybody has any question about this?
How many years, sir? Any validity, or it is once that it's approved, it is for years together, or any
Yeah,
approval
to-
has to be done on a
The
yearly or
approval is initially given for 2 years, and before the end of the 2 years, you will have to apply for an extension. They'll give it for
Really?
another 2 years. Right now, I can't remember whether it's 2 years or 3 years. Sunil, do you
It's
remember?
3 years.
3
3
years.
years.
Oh, thanks. Now, even better, 3 years at a stretch. Any
like
other
private-
question?
Any audit?
Namrata?
Sir, any auditing is done on regular basis, like some higher authority or?
Namrata, regular basis is by you. I sign the register myself because I am the person named in the drug controller's office. Namrata, you personally have to make sure that the documentation is okay. But the representative from the drug controller's office may drop in any day. They don't do it routinely. They don't do it at a regular interval. All of a sudden, a drug inspector will appear and ask for your morphine, to see your morphine stock and the documentation. So as I said, we have the responsibility to make the drug available, but also to prevent abuse. So Namrata, the only regular auditing is by you.
Sir, even in a medical institution?
Unfortunately, Namrata, even in a medical institution, the doctor with training in palliative care is named as the person responsible. This becomes a bit of an issue. You will have to have some kind of an understanding. What I do is, or what Sunil does is, we make sure that our pharmacists know exactly what to do. And we countersign the register from time to time. I don't go and check the stock every day. I am responsible for the stock, but we need to build a good relationship with the pharmacy. Pharmacist has to keep it, and you have to personally check. Unfortunately, Namrata, even in a medical college hospital or a big corporate hospital, we have to accept that responsibility.
And for private, for institute or private doctor
Anything.
in a clinic, if he wants, that is also 3 years, sir. And what is
Yes.
the procedure if in a clinic a doctor wants?
Same rules. Only
Okay,
thing
only the
is,
person sense.
then the drug controller will ask for some evidence that you are a genuine institution. That's only.
If it's a practitioner, like a practitioner who has done
It
a
is-
palliative course.
It is an institution. He will have to create an institution. Dr. Divya's clinic. It's enough. It's an on-room clinic, no problem. But this is given to an institution, not to an individual. There is
And what
another
is-
rule for giving a small quantity to an institution, but but that is not enough for anything. Yes, Divya?
And how many days is the minimum course required, sir, for any other doctor to, like in a clinic, to
No.
dispense morphine?
Divya, a very important question. Fortunately or unfortunately, the rules do not say what training. It only says training in pain management. So it will depend on the drug controller. Usually, majority of states, in Kerala it's a bit difficult, majority of states, whatever certificate of training you give, they accept. Dr. Gopal Nair says, it's similar to the procedure followed in the OT and ICU. No, Dr. Gopal, the difference I'll tell you. If you are using it in the operation theater or ICU, your hospital pharmacy is keeping the medicines. They are the RMI. They are giving a substock. Similarly, in our institution, we have the main pharmacy with all the documentation. They will give so much of medicine to the ward to keep every time, only a small stock. Substock. So similarly, in your institution, Dr. Gopal, the substock is given to the OT. That's an internal arrangement. Arun? So this is what we need to do. Many states still have not implemented the new rules. There's also some problem with the rules, some obscurity, but states have not implemented it. We have to ensure palliative care education in all medical and nursing colleges as much as possible. I mean, now that pain management is in the curriculum, you know that, don't you? From 2019, all the medical colleges, all the medical students are supposed to have pain management as official part of the curriculum, but usually there's nobody to teach. Medical Council has a provision for colleges to accept guest faculty. So if you know friends, if you can take over that task in your neighboring college, that will be a very good thing. Ideally, every state should have a palliative care policy where all these things will be part of the state policy. Kerala has a state policy which has been implemented partially. Karnataka has a palliative care policy which has not been implemented. No other state has a palliative care policy.
What is done in the policy, sir? Like fund is also allotted for the state.
No,
to
policy will say, the policy will state all government hospitals must stock morphine. Doctors will have to, and nurses will have to undergo training in pain management. If that is laid down by the states, then it is easily implemented. Arun is next. So, if you are working in a hospital or a non-government organization like us, if you want, now that you are a trained doctor, get a certificate out of Sunil, certificate of training in this course, collect all the forms from us, get status of recognized medical institution from the drugs controller, apply in the prescribed form. Let me tell you one thing that you will not find in the rules. Always send it by registered post. Even at the drug controller's office next door, send it by registered post and keep the copy. Start a file, keep the copy, keep the evidence of registration. Because the drug controller is authorized, has the responsibility to respond to you within 2 months. If he has not, you will have to send another registered letter. If you go there personally, after 3 months, they will say, we can't find the letter. So you have to apply in the required forms to the drug controller of the state. And once you get the status of recognized medical institution, you ask, ring me up or ring up Sunil and ask, hey, to whom should we place the order? And I will say anybody anywhere in Kerala, buy it from Cochin, because it costs only 1/5 as much as in another state. But you will have to find out who gives you the cheapest and or place the order in a required form. And when the stock comes, keep it in the proper documentation format. Anytime call us, we will guide you. Arun, next one. That's the way our stock is maintained. Arun, can you increase the size a little bit, Control Plus or something? So, no, go back. In the first few columns, you on the third line, in red, you see an amount, that's the receipt. And every patient's name is entered. The registration number of the patient is entered. The date is entered. Quantity dispensed is entered. And the balance is entered in the last column. And in the last column, you see my ugly signature put in covering the whole page. We will guide you. This is something that we want to do. We will be with you with the forms, with assistance in getting it. Please feel free to email us or call us. Arun? Hey, somebody answer this question for me. Not a cancer. Say low back pain, severe low back pain, chronic calcific pancreatitis. Can we put them on morphine?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I agree. Next slide. So, Arun, we don't have time. Just skip over. This child had post-epileptic sequelae, and we treat the child with morphine. The answer is, as Dr. Kanaga said, yes, we can give it. Next slide, please. The child died after 3 months, but for 3 months, the child is lived well. Next, please. But remember, if it is a non-cancer pain, opioids will not be the first line treatment. Try to avoid it. Remember, over the long term, even though it's a small percentage of people, addiction is still a possibility. That is horrendous suffering. So don't use it as a first line medicine. And when you use it for a non-cancer patient, the problem for the long term, short term is okay. Postoperative pain is okay. If you are using opioids in non-cancer pain for the long term, because step 1 and step 2 do not work, or even with the step 2 medicines, tell them this is a medicine that has a potential to cause addiction. So we will have to enter into a contract. You and I come to an agreement that you cannot use medicine more than I prescribe. I'll give you medicine for a week or 2 weeks. But if you come and tell me halfway through that you have finished the medicines, I cannot give you anymore. This strict contract will be necessary. You will have to be very firm. That is to protect the patient. If you talk it openly with the patients, it's okay, they understand. Who wants to get addicted? Does anybody willingly want to become an addict? People understand. So this previous contract must be necessary. These are the precautions to be used when we use it in non-cancer pill. Long term, for long term. Next, please. You must also understand a little bit about methadone. Methadone is a step 3 drug. Control measures are the same. Better, even spectrum of pain relief is even better. Only thing is its margin of safety is a bit narrower. It's fairly new. Sunil is an expert. I am not an expert. But after you have become reasonably confident about using morphine, then learn about methadone and try to use it. The link is given there. There is one special issue of Indian Journal of Palliative Care, which is completely devoted to methadone. Next, please. I'm not going to the details of methadone. I don't want to confuse the issue. Remember, the rise in consumption of morphine in the country is growing up only very slowly. Even now, it has not reached the 1985 level. Next, please. So these are the numerous steps. Only step we have overcome is the legislation by the parliament. Implementation by the state government is still tricky. Professionals accepting it is even trickier. But we will have to do all this. Dr. Kanagasabha, write the articles in the newspapers, write about it.
Sure, sir.
We will have to make easy and affordable access. If you start using fentanyl right and left, you are creating a problem. It costs 150 times as much as our daily dose of morphine. Morphine and methadone should be the mainstay. Fentanyl should be for the selected few people who are rich or maintenance dose. Patients must be enough information, and only if they can adhere to the regime, they can use it. Remember that you can send morphine or step 3 drugs by registered post to patients. The electronic, the ICMR has not approved of electronic telemedicine consultations or opioids, but you can always ask a local doctor to see the patient. And even now, Sunil last week sent methadone by registered post to a person in a distant town who is being monitored by a doctor in the locality, that oncologist. Sunil, are you still there?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sunil, yesterday, Dr. Raju Matthew, the oncologist, rang me up. He said the patient was very happy. With methadone, she gets excellent pain relief. She made me talk to her also. She was very thankful to you. So methadone can be very useful. And in this case, it was sent by registered post. Next slide, please. So you apply to the drugs control of the state. You can find the forms there. Once the status of RMI is obtained, once the status of RMI is obtained, place the order with the supplier and ensure documentation. Next, please. Go back to the previous, Arun. Okay, time for questions now. We still have some time for questions and answers. Sunil, afterwards, after the questions are over, you are collecting feedback?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah, Nanji. Sunil, you can allow, sorry, Arun, you can stop the sharing. If we want, we'll come back to the presentation. Namrata.
sir, we can send the morphine or methadone to the patient by registered post.
Yes, legally, you can send morphine by registered post to a patient. But telemedicine consultation technically is not acceptable. So you must have seen the patient once. In the case of methadone that I and Sunil were talking about, a friend, a doctor we are in connection with, personally saw the patient in another city, and based on that, we made the prescription.
And so, if the patient is coming to my institution and patient every time we have to check, or how many times you can give a proxy drugs?
There is no law covering that. We do it indefinitely. If we'll ask a few questions, we'll ask the patient or the proxy person to bring back the leftover tablets. We'll do a pill count. We'll ask a few questions. If we have the slightest doubt, we will ask a local doctor to see the patient. But usually, I mean, we haven't had problems really.
Can it be sent by courier, sir? Like registered post, you told courier? Like
The law says registered post, but even from the company, it actually comes by courier. So legally, is a courier considered registered post is something that I really do not know. I know that the manufacturer sent it by the courier. But the rule of the law says registered post.
So we can ask for empty strips counting. Empty strips we can ask for to return.
Namrata, I ordinarily would not, because these are again very restrictive problems. Suppose somebody is careless and forgot. A new family member comes in for 3 days to look after the mother. She throws it away. These are things that are not easy to practice. So thinking from the patient's point of view, I think we will know enough if we just ask a few questions like, okay, how many times are you taking? Who is giving the tablet? Oh, your papa is doing it by himself. Oh, ring him up, give us the phone. If necessary, talk to the patient. Today, most people can be reached by the phone. So that's what we do. The thing is, if we bring in new regulations, Namrata, you start asking for empty strips. Gradually, it will become something like a law in the hospital. And if somebody has thrown away the strips, they will not get morphine. I'll be very reluctant to bring in restrictions like that.
and not
Another
always
thing
it
is,
is in strips, no, sir. Sometimes it may be in packet, like loose they sell.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to say. So sometimes morphine also comes in a small bottle, so that you will not be the patient will not be able to produce the empty strip.
And in Kidwai, they're giving us solution, liquid morphine concentration. They
Divya, Kidwai and Manipal are two institutions where they make their own solution. Regional Cancer Center, Trivandrum. They get the raw morphine from the factory, and they have a factory, they have a pharmacy setup. They create their own solution. That's a possibility if you have a strong enough pharmacy system within the institution. It will be very cheap.
Sir, regarding the suppliers, sir.
Yes.
Sir, regarding the suppliers, from where can we get this? Sir? You told about Cochin one center.
In Kerala, we have a manufacturer called Lissi Hospital Pharmaceuticals, who gives it relatively inexpensively. For us, one tablet of 10 milligram morphine costs only about 1 rupee 10 paise. Most competitors cost anywhere from 3.5 to 6.5 rupees. So there is a company in Chennai called Tablets India.
Yes, sir.
Cipla has stopped manufacturing. Rusan Pharma sells it. They cost about 5 rupees 20 paise per 10 milligram. We can send you a list of manufacturers. I don't, please remember to send a list of manufacturers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kanagasala.
can you prescribe for 1 month? We can give the patient morphine for 1 month.
Namrata, the law rules do not prescribe the length of time. Nobody has said in India. In some other countries, it's a problem. In India, nobody says you can prescribe only for so long. So I'll tell you what Sunil and I do. If the patient is coming from close by, we give it for a week. Practically next door. If not, we usually give for 2 weeks. If somebody is coming from a town 2 hours away or 3 hours away, we may give for 1 month. We never give for more than 1 month. But that's only our practice. That's not a legal requirement. I would discourage giving supplies for more than 1 month, because then the chance of a diversion becomes more. We will not be able to monitor its use.
Admission is not always necessary before giving morphine, sir. OPD basis
What?
also like
Sorry?
admission is not required before starting morphine.
Of
Or
course
in a
not.
hotspot.
Most certainly not. I mean, like I would say, I don't have the statistics. I would say 95% of our patients are getting it on the outpatient. We never get admitted. It's only on the outpatient basis.
It's like started 5 mg every 4th hourly and then check.
That's another question. Okay. Divya wants to start morphine for somebody with a pot cancer, maybe breast cancer, local pain, intense. Tramadol gives a little relief for 2 hours. Patient is on tramadol 50 milligram 6 hourly. Okay, in that case, maybe 5 milligrams morphine 4 hourly is a good beginning. But if the patient is already getting 100 milligrams of tramadol 4 hourly, 6 hourly, then your 5 milligram may not be enough. You may have to start with 10 milligrams. But very few people come to you with 100 milligrams of tramadol 6 hourly. So for the majority, 5 milligrams 4 hourly is a good place to start.
And severe pain not control, like if they're in severe pain scale, we can start directly on morphine without tramadol. Like if it is a very severe acute pain.
Divya,
Yes.
the one word answer is yes. The ladder is not a steel ladder, it's a plastic ladder. It's not heavy, you can keep it upside down. Start with step 3. You may start with step 3 and come down the ladder sometimes. But majority patients go up the ladder. Somebody in excruciating pain. Divya, if I come to you in excruciating pain, go straight away, give me step 3. If necessary, give me intravenous for immediate pain. But you said 5 milligrams. Every time we prescribe like that, we always say 5 milligrams 4 hourly and SOS. If after 1 hour pain is still severe, the patient can take one extra dose. And day after tomorrow, patient comes and says, look, I had to take 5 extra doses. You increase the dose, you double the dose. If they say I had to take 2 or 3 extra doses, you may increase by 50%.
Our hospital has 10 mg, sir. 10 mg and 30 mg sustained release. 5 mg is not available. And
10 milligram
fentanyl is there.
only sustained release.
No, 30 mg sustained release and 10 mg normal one.
So
So can we make it half?
huh? Yeah,
Can we make it half?
all the time, all the time. Actually, Divya, sometimes we give 2.5 milligrams also. In which case, we tell them it's difficult to break. We tell them break it into half, 5 milligram, then use a blade to cut it. Even if you lose a little bit, it's okay. So that's okay.
And fentanyl, some here there is more fentanyl because more than morphine, I think they give fentanyl directly. In oncology department, I think fentanyl patches they put.
There are many reasons. The biggest reason is the pharmaceutical industry. No industry representative will come selling you inexpensive medicines. Nobody promotes morphine. Everybody promotes fentanyl. If you say morphine, patients get scared. They are not scared of fentanyl. But it is unethical. I would say it's unethical to start somebody with fentanyl for many reasons. You started to put up a patch today, and it is optimally effective tomorrow. If it is a 25 microgram per hour patch, that's equal to 10 milligrams of morphine for all. That may be too much for some patients. If that is not enough, if that is too much, you remove the patch. It takes 24 hours before he stops being delirious. And then he is in severe pain again. So for somebody with continuous pain, they should go on morphine. You should assess the dose requirement. Based on that, you should switch over to the patch. That is the ethical, scientific way of doing it.
When I went to ICU to watch a terminal ill patient, initially there was a nursing officer. She was having some skin condition where the whole body skin was peeled off, like pura blisters all over the body, skin is peeled off, some condition, autoimmune condition or something. She was in excruciating pain in ICU. The pain could not be bared. It was very ICU. The whole setup was very in pain. So I went, spoke to her. She was telling in other units she was getting morphine. But here she's requesting for morphine, they're not giving. When I spoke to the intensivist in ICU, anesthetist who's stage of ICU, they didn't know we are giving fentanyl patch. That is better than morphine. So I requested, why don't you give morphine? They're like, no, fentanyl is better. So didn't agree. The patient was like in excruciating patient. Patient died of pain. She was telling, I'm telling in my previous unit, they were giving me, she being the officer, they didn't give her morphine and patient died.
This is a very sad, very, very sad. Doctors are superstitious sometimes because the industry representatives give them false information. Nina, you brought up a problem about getting tramadol. The problem is possibly, where are you from, Nina?
Sir, Himachal Pradesh.
Nina, possibly, Nina, we must follow this up.
Yes, sir.
This problem is possibly because the drug controller, Himachal Pradesh, they may be have had a problem with tramadol abuse. Somebody may have diverted tramadol. So drug controllers in some states clamp down and say no tramadol, or they may give it tramadol stock only to some limited pharmacies. So these are usually problems created at the state level by drug controller, and particularly in northeastern states and also northwestern borders, because there can be trans-border trafficking. Officials are a little more cautious, over-cautious. So
Yes.
that must be a local problem with the tramadol, with the drug controller, which will have to be sorted out with that person personally. Which institution are you in, Nina?
It's Sun Pharma, sir.
Okay.
How much would just a tramadol cost, sir? Not tramadol, sorry, fentanyl patch cost, sir? Approximately around? We get for free.
I can't remember offhand. I worked out the cost of morphine for 24 hours and fentanyl for 24 hours. My calculation showed that it was about 150 times more.
Yeah. And tramadol, sir, is much, but still that's expensive than
Tramadol is expensive. About for us in Kerala, tramadol is about 8 times more expensive than morphine. Tablet
it
to
comes
tablet.
in combination with paracetamol, sir. Ultracet.
That's even more expensive.
Good afternoon, sir. Dr. Kevin.
Hi, Dr. Kevin.
Sir, you told me about the implementation of NDPS Act in Kerala is partial only, and there's many things to be done more. I want to know what else what else to be done.
Dr. Kevin, the problem is the rules that was brought out by the government of India themselves had some problems. So the why I said it was partial was because according to the rules, the institution can order morphine from anywhere. But the drug controller in Kerala insists that we order it from within the state. Earlier, there was some other problem, but forget all that. This is okay with us because Kerala has the cheapest morphine. So we are not worried about it. So drug controllers today, according to the law, should not insist on purchase of morphine from a particular institution, particular agency. That is not legal. But otherwise, Kerala is quite okay. We have a system and about 170 plus institutions stock and dispense oral morphine.
And morphine should be kept in double lock, sir, double layered lock and all.
Divya, this is not in the law, but it's a usual practice. That is a double locking system is what they have used from time immemorial. So a drug inspector comes and it is lying open in a cupboard, they'll be very nervous. And the theory is this: two people should have two keys, and only then morphine should be prescribed. That's not easy to practice. So what we do is we do have a double locking system. What is it? It is kept in a cupboard, and the room is also locked. So if somebody says, do you have a double locking system? We say yes. And this double locking system within cupboards, you have one in your bedroom where you have a steel cupboard. Inside there's one chamber in which you put the precious ornaments so that the burglars can straight go for that. That is the double locking system. Unfortunately for oral morphine, that will not work because the oral morphine pack cases are bulky. If you get enough stock for 6 months, the cupboard will be full. But by all means, keep it in a steel cupboard. Never keep it in a glass case cupboard. It has to be reasonably safe. And make sure that nobody leaves the room open when they go out. Keep it locked. These are precautions that we have to take.
End of the day, it has to be locked, the room.
If the pharmacist, a single pharmacist going for lunch, he should lock the room and go.
Oh, sir, do you think, sir, like in India also
Kevin,
will face an opioid epidemic like in United States in years to come?
Kevin, Sunil, I'm sorry that I have far exceeded time. I'll take this last question and then stop. Kevin, I believe the answer to your question, Kevin, is yes, it is possible if we are not careful. We have more or less followed Western European system in our new law. That is the principle of balance. We have not asked for free access everywhere. We did not fight for its availability in every medical store. Imagine what will happen in our country, Kevin, if every pharmacy is allowed to stock morphine, where anybody can go and buy morphine, it will be a calamity. We did not ask for that. We asked for controlled availability. See what I said? It is to recognize medical institutions. In some states, Delhi, for example, Delhi, Hyderabad, drug controllers permitted limited number of pharmacies to stock it, 2 or 3, so that they are able to monitor it. If we make it widely available without control, we will also go for the epidemic. But remember why it happened in US. In US, the Purdue Pharma was allowed to promote OxyContin, sustained release oxycodone, saying that it does not cause addiction. It is totally safe. And they sold it so aggressively that even now you have a dental extraction and the dentist will prescribe you 3 weeks supply of oxycodone. So by not following the principle of balance, US and Canada asked for trouble and got trouble. Western European countries for half a century have used it safely, and we have generally followed that pattern.
So when went to US, many deaths also, morphine addiction and deaths. Many like the children of the addicts' parents who died, they were coming for the care and all. Deaths also.
In US, a few years back, annual death toll from US opioid overdose was more than 30,000, and it was rising. I don't have the data that is recent. Okay, Sunil must be very annoyed with me. You have to collect the feedback. There's a lot of work to do. But ladies and gentlemen, it was a privilege to have the last session with you. I wish this was a bit of a boring subject, but we needed to know. We desperately needed to know all this. I'm so glad that we have connection with you all. Please retain the connection. Don't cut the umbilical cord. Let us stay connected. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So now it's the time for the feedbacks. So I request all of you to say something with your feedbacks. We can make our sessions better. So you can talk about anything about this session timing or the weekly schedules, etc., etc. So